G'day YouTube, Warbles on a lot here. Enough of the bloody driveway tree for a change. Now for a bit of a flashback, open up the old toolbox that used to say C.J. Wharton Esquire with a sticker for aerospatial squirrel helicopters on it. 1979. Ansett General Aviation, Bankstown. I was an aircraft detailer with delusions of adequacy, as you can see. I had a helicopter sticker put on my toolbox. However, today I get to have a play with the little 5 horsepower Davy firefighting pump, which when I bought it had gasket cement all around the bell housing. And they're not supposed to have gasket cement, they're supposed to have petroleum grease, because in there there's an O-ring. And the bloke who sold it to me said, "Oh, you probably need a new O-ring," which was as good as saying we had a go at sealing it with gasket cement and that didn't work. So therefore he gave me a new O-ring, and when I went to change the O-rings, the new O-ring, it was fatter than the old one. The old one was in really bad condition. It seemed to be covered in baked grease, indicating once upon a time the pump has been run dry, just like it says don't do. And it had also been covered with this gasket cement. And I'm sort of forced to the conclusion that either it was the wrong thickness O-ring, not fat enough for the gap it was supposed to fill, and somebody had put it in there with, I don't know, maybe it was contact cement, and that had dried and then failed, and then somebody else had had a go at making it fit with gasket cement, and then I had a go at cleaning everything off because the new gasket, the new O-ring, seemed to be about an inch too long when I first attempted to fit it. I didn't fiddle around and keep trying to fit the overlong gasket, too great a circumference. What I did was I put it aside and prepared to shorten it. Now they say you can't shorten an O-ring because, you know, how are you going to do that? Well, I decided to do it like that. So what I've done, if you look really carefully, you can see I've lined up the seams from the mould, and I've done a 60-degree splice, and there's one fragment on the bottom and one fragment on the top, and the pressure on the gasket will push the two halves of the splice together, and there is a single simple stitch running vertically through the splice, tied off with a reef knot, and then I've served it, and I've used nylon kite string for that job. So I think that's probably going to work. If it leaks, it will certainly leak a whole lot less than the existing arrangement, which is a gasket that, well, an O-ring that's probably 60% the diameter of this. So I think having an O-ring that's too thin all the way around the circumference is going to be outperformed by one that's fat enough to do the job, and it has a little bit of an irregularity there, and it's going to get slathered in automotive grease, and automotive grease is sort of congealed crude oil, and guess what? Synthetic neoprene rubber is also congealed crude oil. So the grease soaks into the neoprene and the neoprene swells. And twine is also plastic which is congealed oil, so yeah, the grease should soak into that. And all told, I think this is going to work. Time will tell. As the cognoscienti will see, I went to a fair bit of trouble cleaning out the groove before I had a go at recycling the wrong sized O-ring. I have put 4,000 litres of water through the pump since I attempted to fix its leaks. Yeah, it pumped water, but it made a bit of a mud pie too. Here's the offending undersized O-ring. slightly off-center setting of the impellers versus the casing, which is what allows the outgoing water to be flung up here and it comes out through the delivery turret. So we reach in there with the approved tool, and there we have the offending undersized gasket, O-ring. In comparison to the replacement, which was apparently slightly too long and therefore had to be cut and shut. So we grease the replacement and prepare to reinstall. With a suitable slathering all the way around. What is it? Shell Retinax AX grease, axle grease. Special non-melt clay-based grease for use in wheel bearings, where such a grease is specified for cars fitted with disc brakes. Caution, certain grease bases are not compatible. Do not mix different greases. For further technical assistance, contact Shell. I don't think I'm going to be doing that because I reckon this will do the job. Rather better than an undersized O-ring and gasket cement and extra grease ever had a hope of doing. More of the history of this pump can be read by examining the bolts that came out of the casing, and 2 are new and a lot of them don't have any washers. So I think it's been run dry and then somebody has opened it up, put the wrong O-ring in there, lost half the washers and perhaps 1 or 2 of the bolts, put it back together, decided that it wasn't a success, and then they've traded it in. The small engine dealer has supplied the missing bolt or 2, added gasket cement to the undersized O-ring and whatever had been used as a sealant, which was sticking it in there because it was pretty hard to get it out. I had to do a fair bit of work to clean the groove out. And then when it leaked for them as well, they've put it aside, decided it wasn't worth spending any more time or money on, and when they could find somebody who they could trust to buy it cheap and figure it out and fix it and then use it. And that's how Muggins come to be getting the thing for $150, and that's why here I am now, retro engineering the third-hand pump. Right. Did that there then. So now we get pack it all away. Put the toolbox back where it lives, behind the driver's seat of my car, just in case I might need to fix a helicopter at some point. Again, used to do it for a living kind of thing once upon a time. If you can call detail and assembly fixing a helicopter. Is to go and grab some appropriate hoses and connect the bits like thus. And now, initial test is when we turn the water on. Do we have any drippiness? We have no drippiness. Once again, turn on the water. As strange as it may seem, The air is coming out of the pump through the water suction inlet. What I was going to say was, strange as it may seem, these things, if they're going to leak at the O-ring, they leak worse when the engine's not going. Because when the engine's going, there's a positive pressure on the inside of the O-ring and it squeezes the O-ring out into the gap. So that undersized O-ring, it actually leaked a hell of a lot worse when the motor was not going. However, let's see how it goes with actual pressure. It runs, and we as yet have no leaks. At low power, it squirts. And that's working. I cannot tell a lie. There is a very slow, steady drip, 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 and that's from a bolt. It's not from the O-ring. So I might be able to tighten that up. Full power. There's more leak from the sports fittings than there is from the pump. That's not a bad little firefighting pump for $150. And as I said, the sports fittings are leaking more than the pump casing, so I'm going to call that a success. And to be honest, I was able to cure a lot of that just by tightening that up using the blade of a pocket knife. So I can certainly fix that. Good job. Right, so now I have 3 functional pumps. 3,000 horsepower turbine thrusters heading off for Tenterfield. He's gone behind the hill. Here comes a third. Fire's been putting up a pyro cumulonimbus head on it all morning. They got, I think, 2 helicopters went from Glen Innes headed north, and now they're getting 3 thrushes at once. Be interesting to see how long their turnaround time is. Ah, they're not going to Tenterfield, they're going to something a bit nearer than that. I think. There we go. Just visible in that gap there. And yeah, there's smoke coming up over there. Oh well, time will tell. So I'll leave the suction hose over here because there's somewhere up here about 17,800 litres. 18,750 is full up here. Down about here at 16,000 is the tank not full detector. Low stopcock ball valve. That cross flow valve is on. That cross flow valve is on. Shows it a bit more better. And that water tank there it's also at the 17,750 litre mark. So look at that, 35,000 litres. $50 metres from my front gate. And we have a depth gauge. Look how far we've come in a month and a week. There have been great learnings in the behaviour of solar pumps. And then there have been interesting times. At one point there, not yesterday but the day before yesterday, we actually took out 7,500 litres in one day from this tank and put it across into this tank. And the theory is this tank is going to stay full, 18,750 litres, as a hedge against no sunny weather, pump breakdown, one of the ball valves in the cattle troughs goes unserviceable and wastes half a tank full of water, or 18,000 litres of emergency firefighting reserve available regardless of the state of the daily use moo cow watering trough. It might not be much, but it's the best we can think of. And of course I couldn't get to do much of anything to do with water pumps while I was playing with chainsaws on the driveway. And of course, not to forget that about 450 metres that away, there still remains something like 2.5 tonnes of one single chunk of a tree lying on top of that fence. Haven't got to it yet, because it was eclipsed by the priorities of the tree across the driveway, and the tree across the driveway was what stopped me from playing with the pump and the O-ring while filling tank number 2. Pretty stark contrast, isn't it? So now I can sort of hide in the shade and relax while waiting for the wind to calm down, whereupon it becomes time to change the tattered, shattered, hail-battered remnants of the ultraviolet covers on the 2 buoy walls. A job so unfun, I've been postponing it for at least 2 days. Because chainsawing was more important. Fixing the pump and stopping it from leak was more important. Even levitating the triple plaited branch was a higher priority than putting new ultraviolet covers onto the pools. And by the way, yes, I think the Waitalabar fundraising donative art auction is interested in this. Just don't know where I've got to deliver it to or when yet. And I'm thinking maybe I should put some linseed oil on the cut ends just to sort of slow the drying process. And the more quantitatively surveyoringly inclined viewers and commenters have suggested that it probably weighs somewhere between 500 and 800 kilograms. I don't know. 500 kilograms, 1,000 pounds, that sounds about right to me. I'd say half a tonne rather than a tonne. Somewhere in that vicinity. It's a 1 tonne trailer anyway. 7 by 4 foot box. Warbles on a lot to YouTube. I've successfully pimped me pump with a cut and shut shortened O-ring. Just like, theoretically, it's not possible to shorten an O-ring. Only a Wharton would try to do it. Ciao.